So I recently got laid off, and it was actually one of the best experiences of getting laid off that I think anyone could have. Despite it being really terrible, I think it was one of the best experiences. But let me dig into why I think that is. So, with layoffs, I know it can be really stressful, and a lot of the experiences that I've heard of people having is it's very impersonal. You'll get an email that your role's been eliminated and you're no longer employed, or you'll be on a mass Zoom email with like 100 or maybe more people, and the CEO is basically just going on about how they're changing direction or making changes and your role's eliminated while they're still making millions and millions in bonuses, which is absolutely frustrating. Um, but my experience was very different from that because I actually got called into a meeting with my manager. It was a 15-minute meeting, and it was kind of nice in the sense that it wasn't set up from before with like a vague agenda. He kind of just came up to me and was like, "Hey, do you have a few minutes to chat?" Um, and in the past, this would have been, "Yeah, let's chat. We're probably working on a project," and it wouldn't have been a big deal. But it's actually funny because during that time, I knew layoffs were coming because my company that I used to work for recently got acquired. And when a company gets acquired, you know what that means. There's going to be cost savings, synergies, and that means layoffs. So I knew it was coming. And there wasn't really a timeline. But when the deal closed, there was a rumor going around about that by the end of this week that they were going to announce layoffs. And at first I was like, okay, we're getting closer to the end of the week. I'm so far been pretty safe. Maybe I'll make it through. Unfortunately, I did not. And so my manager messages me and he's like, hey, do you have a few minutes to chat? And then he basically gives me the news, which, honest, which at the time was really devastating. It was heartbreaking because this was a company that I really enjoyed working for. And it was one of the few places where I really I really enjoyed the work that I was doing. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the people I was with. My manager was great. Um, but despite all of that, obviously it's still a business and they have their own agenda. But even the way they laid me off, I think just really speaks to the culture of the organization, and at least the leadership of my manager for sure. So when he gave me the news, there was still a week more left of my employment at that time. And I know a lot of people where they've been told this news and they still have a jam packed schedule for the week coming up. Thankfully, my manager was a lot better and he just said, hey, you've got, there's a week left, but honestly, don't even worry about working, which was really, really sweet. He asked me to do one final finance weekly update, which took about an hour, and then there was a transition meeting, which was about an hour, and that was just to kind of keep the lights on. Like, he didn't ask me to dig into like all the projects I was working on or anything like that. It was just like, hey, that's gonna be someone else's problem. I don't have to deal with that anymore, which was kind of nice because otherwise, transitioning all the work that you're doing, like the projects that you're working on, where they're at, your thought process, that could take like hours and hours. So I'm kind of glad I didn't have to do that. Um, and my manager was really generous of basically giving me free time off essentially. And honestly, through this experience, I've learned that layoffs are inevitable. I didn't think my role would get eliminated because I played such a crucial role on the team that I was a part of. But I guess there's companies will always find a way to eliminate roles if they need to. And so what I've kind of learned is layoffs are inevitable, they're going to happen. And the best thing that you can do is prepare in advance. And the best way to do that is it's kind of like when you're applying for a job. Like if you already have a job, if you're already employed, it's easier to get a job versus when you're not employed. I find it's harder to get a job. And a lot of the reasons is because I feel like there's a negative stigma around it. And then also, I feel like you have less confidence when you're not employed because then you're kind of just like scrambling and you're kind of looking for any job that you can get, at least most of the time. And so the best way that you can prepare is keep networking, have conversations with people, have those coffee chats, continue to develop your skills. I think that's really important. One thing that I did while I was at work was I would constantly, like, when I had opportunities to network with people, whether it was a coffee chat or it was a random like networking event, I would try and go out to it as much as I could, at least if it was like of interest, just to like one, continue to grow my network. I think that's just very important to stay in the job market. Secondly, I think you want to continue to maintain relationships and not burn any bridges. So even in this situation where the news was given that my role was getting eliminated, I kept it very professional in the sense of I wasn't like angry or upset. I didn't like be like, screw you, I'm not doing any work. You guys figure it out on your own. Like I was very generous with my time, even if it was only a few hours. And I reached out to everyone that I worked with to kind of just catch up and be like, hey, I'm not going to be working with you anymore. It was great working with you. Let's keep in touch. And it was actually great because everyone that I worked with was one, devastated as well that my role got eliminated because we really had a great time working together. But also they were so helpful in the sense of they're like, hey, if you find someone on LinkedIn that I'm connected to, let me know and I'll reach out to you, give you an introduction. And I think everyone was just really helpful in that sense. Outside of that, I think this just really goes more to show the importance of like having that savings account, having that emergency fund, because you just never know when something's going to happen. Thankfully, with the company I was at, they gave a very generous severance package, so I was very lucky in that sense. But even then, like I really think having savings is so important, and short-term savings too. Um, and depending on what you hear, some places will say, "Oh, you only need 1 to 3 months, some are 6 months, some 12 months." And I think ideally, I think that really depends on what level you're at in your career. If you're early on, it's pretty easy to get an entry level position. So I'd say 1 to 3 months is okay. As your responsibilities grow, I would say you probably want to get to 6 months. And by responsibilities, I mean not just at work, like as you gain seniority, but also life responsibility. Like, do you have a mortgage? Do you have a car payment? Do you have pets? Do you have kids? Do you have a partner? All of those definitely add to the level of responsibility and the amount of savings you want. And then as you go further, let's say you're in a much more senior role, you have high expenses every month, like let's say private school or things like that, then I think you want to get into um, maybe more of an emergency fund, maybe 12 months. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight. And kind of the way I think about it is like, let's say every 5 to 10 years, you might experience something catastrophic where you need that 12 months of savings. So if it takes you like 5 to 10 years to get that savings, to save up that 1 year's amount, I think that's okay. But you got to start smaller. You got to start like today, immediately start growing. Start with $1,000 as soon as you can and then grow it to like a month and then up to 3 months. I think that's kind of a good place to start. Outside of an emergency fund, I think having a side hustle, I think, has never been more important than it is today. Thankfully, I've been focusing on my flipping business where I'm actually on my second flip in the past 6 months, which has been really exciting. Definitely stressful. Thankfully, by getting laid off, I've actually been able to put more time into the flipping business, which has been really beneficial. Like I'm learning a lot, really being able to be on the job site. And I'm also networking with a lot of other real estate investors and flippers, which has been really great. Again, coming back to the importance of networking, because just like in a job where you want to have a strong network that you can lean on in case you get laid off, in real estate, it's the same thing. You want to have a network of people around you who you can lean on for when you're not sure what to do something or you need a referral for like a plumber or an HVAC guy. Having that network is just so essential. So, given all of this, what does that mean? Well, I'm definitely going to still be looking to get employed again. I think having a W 2 income is essential. It gives you that extra buffer. Even though my long term goals are to go into real estate and YouTube full time, I think having that W 2 is just so important. It really gives you more of that stability. And I think it really forces you to be more efficient with your time as well. Like, really prioritize what's the most important thing you can do for the YouTube channel, for real estate. Because sometimes I feel like if you have too much time, then you just fill it up with things that aren't as productive. Um, so I think that is definitely helpful in having that W-2 income. So I'm excited to find my next adventure there while continuing to focus on YouTube and real estate. And yeah, excited to see what comes next. So continue to follow along. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you on the next video.